Hello everybody, it is Tom and welcome to another video.
I've been going to some dark places. I hate it when my mind races. I've got so many.
So you may be looking at this video and wondering, what the heck, Tom? This is not a Heartstopper video. This is not what we've been waiting for. This is not what you're supposed to be working on. And you would be correct. So this past week has been not super easy and I just have not been in... Yeah, I know. Alright, hold on. What's up? What's up, my dear? What's up? Yeah, so this past week has not been easy. I've tried a few times to record the next Heartstopper reaction video. I swear I'm going to do it. I just have not been in the right place mentally. But what has really been occupying my mind this week has been Agatha All Along, which is an amazing show with a fantastic cast, great writing, and of course, Joe Locke. This most recent episode, episode 6, is just phenomenal and such a showcase for Joe Locke's talent. So I've just been thinking about it nonstop since it came out, and rewatching it and watching other people react to it, and I have many things I need to say. And so we are going to watch it and talk about it. And yeah, if you have not seen the other episodes, be warned that this episode spoils a lot of things. If you want to remain unspoiled to some pretty big revelations, maybe watch the show before you watch my reaction to it. Anyway, so let's watch it and let's talk about it and let's do that. So yeah, let's do it. Okay. Dun 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 dun. Familiar by thy side. Familiar by thy side. I love how all of the episode titles have been lines from the Witch's Road song. And this one, of course, fits very well since Agatha calls Teen her familiar at least once. That's a nice tie. I want that tie. Gotta fix the curls. I'm so glad that they managed to give Joe something to sing in this show. Like, this show has a lot of singing as far as, Marvel shows go. Like, probably the most singing of any Marvel show I've ever seen. But, there's such a talented cast, obviously, but Joe is an excellent singer. I appreciate the fact that they have allowed Joe to showcase his lovely angelic voice for us in this way. And of course, Billy Kaplan, I believe, is canonically Jewish. Okay, and then we have a close-up on the bar mitzvah pamphlet or what? Brochure? I'm not sure what we would call this, but regardless, it says celebrate the magic mitzvah of William Kaplan. So we know from here that even William was interested in magical stuff. And we can see this more later on in his room with the kind of posters that he has. But it's really interesting that even before the thing that happens later, he was into this kind of thing. And I assume that's why there's palm reading at his bar mitzvah, because I imagine that's not a typical thing. Exactly. Yeah, this is really cool. Like, I have never been to a bar or bat mitzvah, so this is all new to me, but it's very beautiful, the way that they show it and the way that they, with his singing in the background and everything. I wonder how freaked out Joe was having to sing this and also read in Hebrew.
Vayachivu lifnei Adonai.
He does it beautifully, though.
Teitze yishmi lifnei Adonai.
I love this transition. Like, the cinematography in this episode is just gorgeous. And I really like this transition where, like, we pan around the back of him and the music starts to fade in, and then we're here with him dancing at the party portion of the bar mitzvah. Heartstopper vibes. I think it's really cool also that, like, you can see the centerpieces on the tables they look like trees that look very much like they would belong on the Witch's Road, which was a very cool detail. And we have a lot of blue lighting, which really fits in with Wiccan's color.
We are so proud of you.
Gross.
You're gross.
You're both disgusting.
No family that is this level of happy can possibly survive as it is. Like, this is just begging the universe to do something to you, being this happy. Into the palm reader's tent.
Are we looking behind us or ahead?
Lilia. I freaking love Lilia. And she is rocking this outfit.
Don't tell me everything. Don't want to know too much. Sorry, I just pretend I'm not here.
Just pretend I'm not here. Oh, that's such a sad line, considering. I'd be interested to know, like, if there's any sign of the lifeline split in two here on his actual palm. Like, when I was a kid, I was interested in palm reading. And actually, so if I can't really show it to you, but if you can see, my palm has what looks like a W on it, which I told myself at the time meant witch. So it meant like because I used to be very into like the idea of psychic powers and things like that. So any sign that I might possess some otherworldly ability was, yeah.
This journey will be one of great transformation and...
I love how she starts out by giving, like, you can tell she's just like rattling off the usual spiel that comes along with her palm readings. But then, oh, and we have Teen in his outfit from as we know him, upside down in the crystal ball here.
Your lifeline is broken in two.
What?
I think it's really interesting, like all of the times when Lilia makes a prediction before now, she immediately forgets what she said. But in this case, she remembers, like she says your lifeline is split in two, and then remembers that she has said that. So that's interesting.
That can't be good.
It can mean many things. It often represents personal growth and important life changes.
And then she realizes, like, oh shit, I'm really scaring the crap out of this poor kid. And, like, scrambles. And Patti LuPone, obviously, is a goddess. And, like, she does an amazing job here of showing Lilia, like, scrambling to say something that will convince Teen that, no, it's fine. It's totally normal. You're not about to have a horrible thing happen to you.
I wouldn't worry.
Absolutely, you should worry. Absolutely worry.
The tower reversed.
Yeah, so the tower reversed is like, you're not accepting an inevitable change that's coming. You can feel crisis looming and you're struggling to avoid it. The person involved is refusing to listen to warnings and reason. So that's very interesting. Though in this case, Lilia is not really warning him. She's doing the opposite of warning him. So
I thought you were reading my palm.
I just remembered something, I think.
I do wonder how much Lilia actually remembers when she goes into the, because like in episode 2, when she wrote the list of the people in the coven, she didn't remember writing her own name, but she did remember that she wrote a black heart. So it's interesting to wonder how much she remembers.
You don't need to be a psychic to see that you're a good egg. Enjoy the now, baby. It's the only thing that's certain.
Oh, it's so sad. It's so sad because, like, I think Lilia clearly knows what's about to happen, at least generally, and is basically telling this kid, like, enjoy your last hour or so of life. But, oh God, poor William. He seems like a good kid. We have Lilia thinking and immediately goes to draw the sigil. There are a lot of theories about why exactly she put the sigil on him. And of course, we can't ask her because she immediately forgot putting the sigil on him. Though I do wonder if she will remember now that the sigil is broken. Like, now that the sigil is broken, after she somehow manages to crawl out of the mud, will she remember doing this? But regardless, okay, so my theory is because the sigil is only able to be broken when it's no longer needed. There are two possibilities here. So Agatha realizes who Teen is. She realizes his identity. So he no longer needs to be protected from her specifically, or the fact everything that happened with Alice and, you know, losing the one friend that he had on the road, being shown undeniably that Agatha is not the person that he seemed to think she was. So it could be that his identity needed to be hidden from other witches until he was able to defend himself, or his identity needed to be hidden from Agatha specifically to get to this point. Because obviously Agatha says that she had she had an idea at the start. She had a suspicion all along that he might be Wanda's kid, but she was not 100% sure until he used his power. There was always that little tiny bit of, what if he's actually Nicholas? What if he's actually my son, within her brain that whole time? Now, because that was there, she allowed herself to care for Teen. Now, would that have happened if she knew with 100% certainty that he was not her son? Maybe, maybe not. But regardless, the fact that she had that little bit of uncertainty about who he was and allowed herself to care for him as she would her own child, when he is dying, essentially, when he gets stabbed with glass in episode 4, and she's like, she's freaking out. She's like, Jen, you have to do something. And she manages, like, in that moment, because she's so upset, her caring so much is part of what propels Jen to figure out what to do and to heal him. Like, if Agatha had not cared so much about Teen, would he have survived that moment? Would they have come this far? Would she be protecting him? I think that the sigil definitely was protecting Teen's identity, protecting Billy's identity, up until he had the power to protect himself, and or up until Agatha figured out who he was. So yeah, that was kind of a mess of an explanation, but hopefully you understood there somehow, somewhat. I love this, that the second she puts it in his jacket, she's like, what's this? What am I doing? Why am I holding this? Why am I standing? Though with Lilia's gift, I imagine that she has a lot of times when she's like, what? Why?
Some kid left this in my tent.
Now, there has been some speculation about who this mysterious woman is who takes the jacket. I just think she's, like a party planner or something, or someone who works at the venue, but her hair does have a certain Agatha look to it, but obviously Agatha is not here right now because she's busy fighting Wanda in Westview.
Will you make sure that they get it back?
It is. I mean, what would have happened if they had not managed to figure out whose jacket that was, and like the sigil never made its way to William? Like, that's a bit of a risk. Oh, William, enjoy your time, buddy.
There's something happening with the anomaly in Westview.
What's going on?
Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I think we have to go.
It's so interesting. Like, I never thought about it during WandaVision, but of course the surrounding areas would be affected by the hex. Hear Wanda and Vision on the radio.
It's okay. We'll be home soon.
William's parents do a really good job of hiding how they're actually feeling, but in this case, it's clear that they're very on edge. I mean, imagine living in a world with the Avengers and all of the crap that has gone on over all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, I would be on edge too. And he finds the sigil. This is so cool, like seeing the hex reflected in the glass of the window. I wonder if we'll ever learn anything about who was driving this truck on the wrong side of the road. And also, it's interesting that if William had not warned his mom in time, they would have hit this truck head on, and probably the parents would have received the brunt of the impact. But because he warns her, they go spinning around and hit the tree on his side. Oh God, that is so, like, just how viscerally you can feel that impact. That is just, oh my God. We see the hex getting smaller. At first, I was really sure that this was going to kill his parents. I did not realize what was happening.
William! William!
Is he okay?
No, he's breathing.
Poor William.
Call 911. I don't think he's breathing. I can't get to
It's not going through.
William.
Oh, he says the 911 call is not going through.
Jeff, look.
We're fine, Dad.
No. Hold on.
We hear his heartbeat slow and stop.
Tommy!
I love the way they did this. Like, one of the things that I love about this episode, is it exposition? Technically, yes. It's informing us of the story so far, explaining what's happened so far, but it's doing it in such a showing rather than telling sort of way. Like, the way that they did this, where you hear his heartbeat slow down, you hear his heartbeat stop, and then you hear Billy and Tommy, and then gasp, and he says the name Tommy, like you can immediately understand what happened if you're paying attention and not talking over the scene like some reactors I have seen who were very confused. Yeah, I think this is amazingly good storytelling in this whole episode.
Is he breathing?
And then we have Alice, the Eastview PD. I miss Alice. Like I've heard a lot of people talking about like speculating who's alive and who's not. Like Sharon, dead. Alice, I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, Alice is gone. Lilia and Jen clearly are going to return because we've seen them in the previews for the rest of the season. But like, I think Alice is dead, and that makes me sad because I love Alice. But I also think it's very important that she died because that was what spurred Billy to come into his power. Like that rage from the unfairness of her death and the betrayal of it being Agatha who did it, even if she couldn't control it. And I do believe her that she couldn't control her power in that moment. But anyway, I love Alice. I miss her. I would not be sad if she came back, but sadly, I don't think she's going to.
You know where you are right now.
This would be so terrifying. And like, I mean, obviously, suddenly finding yourself in another body with presumably no memories of what happened before. Like he does wake up saying Tommy, but it's implied later on that he doesn't remember being Billy. Not only is he in a new body, in a place he doesn't know, with people he doesn't know, and a face he doesn't recognize, but he's suffered a major head wound. Like he is in pain and, you know, has just been fatally injured, honestly. So like this must have been a nightmare for poor Billy. Okay, and then he's at Eastview General Hospital, and some time must have passed because like he's healed a bit. Ugh, those eggs do not look appetizing. I'm referring you to an excellent psychologist, the doctor says.
Hey, buddy.
He puts on a smile as soon as they come in. It's also interesting that like since he doesn't have memories of being Billy, he might genuinely believe that he's William Kaplan with amnesia, which is very interesting.
He's gonna make fun of me.
It's fine, just please don't fight.
We're not fighting.
Yeah. Sorry.
Even though you're another person in another universe, the S word is still banned, my friend.
You're not allowed to say the S word.
The doctor was saying all the scans look clean. No signs of permanent damage.
She thinks the amnesia will just take a little time to resolve on its own.
The parents are putting on a brave face and trying to smile for him so they don't freak him out even more than he's already freaked out. This whole episode is so cinematically shot. It's just really excellent work. It's so sad looking at the old pictures of poor William. Poor William! I feel so bad for William. He seemed like such a nice kid. The horrible thing is these parents lost their son and they don't even know it. But I do think that it's better this way, at least that because like, can you imagine the guilt that this mother would feel if he had died when she was driving? That would be unimaginable. Like all that they're going through would be multiplied by 1,000 if William, you know, if Billy had not hopped in there after William died. So that would be so weird, like coming into it and not really understanding what's going on, but knowing that looking at yourself in the mirror doesn't feel right. I know, Darla. Yeah, it would be very weird. Oh, and the dog knows. The dog named Greg senses that this is not his William.
Please stop, please stop.
This would be so confusing for the parents, but I definitely understand this level of panic from him. The subtitles don't reflect this, but you can hear Jeff thinking, what if he's not funny anymore? And then as Billy leaves the kitchen, he's like, maybe we can have dinner, my treat. So he makes a little joke there, and then you see Jeff kind of laugh and be a little bit relieved. So I feel like this is really showing us how Billy spends the next 3 years using what he hears from their minds to sort of put them at ease regarding, you know, his recovery.
Stop worrying!
Yeah, I used to want mind reading abilities when I was a kid, but like it would be a nightmare. It would be a nightmare. Yeah, such a difficult time for these parents. I really feel for them. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of evidence around William's room that he was interested in magic. So you have a Houdini poster, Mystic Rock, Alice in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz, The Black Cauldron. So clearly they could not get the rights to the Goonies because it is the Goofballs in the Goonies font. And then we have some cool Wizard of Oz figurines visible in the background with the Wicked Witch of the West. Very cool room, by the way. Like, this is an awesome, awesome room. Bigger than my apartment, for sure. Ugh, and it's so sad looking at these pictures of the happy family that has been torn asunder. Now this shot, I love this. So we have two mirrors. So we have Billy looking into, there's a full body mirror, and then off to the side we have a mirror that just shows his head, which is so interesting because with Billy/William, we have the divide between body and mind. So the body is William's, but the mind is Billy's.
My name is William Kaplan. I'm William Kaplan.
The way that he says this, but it's clear that it just doesn't feel right. There's such trans vibes here as well, like looking in the mirror at yourself and feeling like the person you see isn't the person you are, and, you know, saying a name that doesn't feel like your own. Very, very, very trans experience. And then 3 years later.
They had fun.
I always have fun with you.
Now, there's been speculation about whether or not this is Hulkling, who is canonically Wiccan's boyfriend. Here, his name is Eddie, and Hulkling's name is Teddy Theodore. So it could be. But yeah, I really like this guy, and I like Billy and Eddie's relationship. So I would love it if he turned out to be Hulkling, but I guess we'll see.
What is this thing? You always have it with you.
It's a sigil.
I do like that they say here, it's a sigil for anyone who didn't catch that was what it was. And there were definitely people who did not catch that was what it was.
I'm just gonna say, William Kaplan, I love you.
So when I saw this scene, I was very much like, oh no, because in the book I'm currently working on, there is a goth teen with mind-reading powers who tells the boy that he's interested in that he can sense other people's thoughts and feelings when they are having intense emotions. So like, I swear I did not copy that. I had that written. I can prove, I can show you the timestamps that it was written before I saw this show. But I mean, I guess it's a common idea anyway.
I need to tell you something.
I can't remember where Joe was talking about this, but where he admitted that like he kept redoing the slit in his eyebrow because he thought it looked cool after filming this. And I have to agree, it looks very cool. And this is from someone who has a slit in their eyebrow from stitches and not from like fashion. His looks better than mine for sure.
I need to tell you something.
Yeah, me first.
When he said, yeah, me first, the first thing I thought was like, oh crap, he's going to break up with him or something. Or maybe he's going to tell him like, I can't, I'm in love with a guy named Nick in another universe.
So this thing happens when I'm with someone I care a lot about and they're having intense feelings.
I like that before his boyfriend tells him he loves him, before they move on to that next step, he wants to be honest with Eddie about who he really is, at least, you know, to the degree that he is here.
I already saw it.
I'm into it.
Eddie seems like a very good boyf.
I died that night. And when I came back, I was different. I'm not William Kaplan. At least, not entirely.
Yeah, this sentence, I'm not William Kaplan, at least not entirely, is really interesting because, like, you know, obviously we know that William died. His soul left his body and then Billy's soul moved in. So, like, there's nothing left of the original William Kaplan. But Billy has been living as William Kaplan for the last 3 years. Like, he has existed longer as William Kaplan than he ever did as Billy Maximoff. So, in a way, he is William Kaplan, but not the original.
I still don't remember anything from before the accident. Just pretended to recover so my parents wouldn't worry. Nothing in my life has felt normal until I met you, but I want you to know the truth. I want you to know the real me, because I love you too. What did you want?
And he's like, oh, what did you want to say? He has no idea.
If you're not William Kaplan, who are you?
Fair question.
Oh, no distractions, please. I'm gonna need you to hide those arms.
Somewhere Kit Connor is flexing his biceps.
So on the night of the accident, we were only a few miles from Westview.
It's interesting that Billy has all this stuff spread out over his room, like clearly not hidden. So I wonder if his parents know about this. Like his mom must have walked into his room someday and like seen all this stuff. So I wonder what they make of it, or if he tries to hide it from them. I don't know.
That big red dome thing in the sky. I thought that turned out to be some Avengers training exercise gone wrong.
When in doubt, Avengers training exercise.
Those of you who are a little more adventurous.
Really? That's your description, Jen? Subscribe. Check out Jen Kale's video. Yeah, so this is the Kale Cares probiotic candle mask tutorial. So where you melt down the candle and put it on your face, which, yeah, not makes sense as far as the lawsuits. It's completely safe, she says.
Hey, so what do you think this really is then?
Subscribe. Check out Anomaly captured on video. You guys, you gotta work on these descriptions.
Look, here. See, those are runes.
It's a rune.
People who were there refuse to talk about it.
I wonder, do they refuse to talk about it, or have they been threatened not to talk about it?
I did find this guy on Reddit. He used to live there.
The second he said, I found a guy on Reddit, my mind immediately went to Ralph Boner, because who else would be that guy on Reddit? Here we are in a dark parking garage.
This is where he suggested.
That's my point.
I am glad that he brought Eddie with him at least. Ralph Boner does not turn out to be a threat to them, but this is seriously sketchy. Like, don't do this. I assume the reason Ralph is being so sketchy about this is that, yeah, the residents of Westview are under some kind of like decree, some kind of threat from the government or Sword or whoever to not talk about what happened, because otherwise people might find out it wasn't an Avengers training exercise gone wrong.
Are you Craft Crazy 17?
This is a great reveal. Like, knowing how much the existence of Ralph Boner pissed off the fandom. I love that we get Ralph Boner again. And Evan Peters is just fantastic, whatever he's in, so.
You must be Bonerific 69.
Bonerific 69. Classy as ever, Ralph.
You can just call me Ralph. Randall.
It's interesting how Ralph has like various things on him to ward off witches. Like he has the cross-ish symbol on his hat and various other things on his person.
Get down!
I love that Billy's just like, what the hell is going on? And like Eddie is just ducking cover.
Wanda had the whole town acting out this weird, sad sitcom plot.
Wanda Maximoff?
You want to hear this or not, bub?
Not the Wolverine bub.
Couldn't move, talk. It was like watching yourself on TV inside your own head.
I do like that we get this side of things, of how horrific this genuinely was for the people of Westview. Like that, because it looked so cheerful and like, oh yes, but that would have been so horrifying. Yeah, like Wanda, I love Wanda, but girl, you did not do, like that was pretty horrific.
Do you feel like it changed you? Can you like do stuff now?
So it's interesting that it seems like his theory at first is that somehow, the Hex gave him his powers or something. Like he clearly at this point does not have any idea that he is, in fact, Billy Maximoff.
Please don't ask about Agatha Harkness. Please don't ask about Agatha Harkness.
Now, it's really interesting here that Billy can overhear Ralph Boner's thoughts. And he said before that it's only people he cares about having intense emotions. So I think it's so interesting that, like, from the start, he can hear his parents, or William's parents' thoughts, because William, the body he's in, was very close to them. But Ralph Boner, when he was Billy Maximoff, he thought Ralph was his uncle. So they also had a close relationship. So it makes sense that he would be able to hear Ralph's thoughts based on that past connection.
What do you know about Agatha Harkness?
Oh, come on, man!
Also, it's hilarious that he's like, please don't ask about Agatha Harkness. And he's immediately like, what do you know about Agatha Harkness? At first, I thought he was pepper spraying them.
It's witch repellent!
You fools.
Wait, Mr. Bonerific!
Mr. Bonerific. What even is that? It looks like a dead baby crocodile or a lizard or something. I don't know. God damn it! Billy is so unflappable during this whole thing. Like Ralph is just freaking out the whole time, but he just stands his ground, whereas Eddie is like backing up.
She called me her husband, but I was her puppet.
Yeah, I had forgotten that Agnes was always being like, my husband Ralph.
She stole my house, completely ruined the market value.
This scene is so like the best thing about this scene is that Evan Peters is playing it so straight and dramatic, but there are these lines that are just hilarious, and his delivery is impeccable. Like I love his portrayal of Ralph Boner, like communicating how horrible everything was that he had to go through, but also doing it in a really funny way.
And she made me do these horrible things. I was a terrible influence on Juan and Vision's kids.
Just of note, since you can see it so clearly in this particular frame, but Billy's his right ear, he has a black heart. So his earring is a black heart, and of course later Eddie refers to him as his black heart. So it seems clear that like the list of the coven members that Lilia made, the black heart does refer to Billy because she could not write his name because of the sigil, so she just drew the black heart. I think they did a really good job of making that ambiguous, where like it could have referred to Mrs. Hart, though obviously didn't, that's not even her real name, but we assumed that it referred to Rio since she talked about having a black heart, but of course it's actually Billy, which means he is genuinely a member of the coven and perhaps their green witch.
Wait, Wanda and Vision have kids?
Had. Past tense. Twins.
What were their names?
Billy and Tommy.
Tommy.
That's so interesting too, that like he clearly does not remember being Billy, but the name Tommy triggers something in him. And it is what he woke up yelling. I don't know if he remembers that or not, but like the name clearly means something to him deep within.
The little speedster and his mind-reading brother.
And that's when he puts it together.
Agatha is still in Westview?
Last I heard, she was under some kind of spell or something. Accept cash, or I give you half-off tickets to my one-man show in Paramus.
What is his one-man show? Like, I'm very curious. Is it the same vibe as his parking lot one-man show? Because if so, I don't know if I want to see that.
I really need to fill seats. That's what it's gonna be.
Billy's like, I'll pay cash. This is a really interesting scene too, where like we see Billy come home, he leans his back against the wall, and we see his real emotions, his real self, where he's just dealing with all of the ridiculous revelations he's just made. But then when his parents call him, when he goes around the corner to face his parents, he's smiling, he's totally William for them, which is what he's been doing for the past 3 years. Kind of alleviating their worries by being the son that they expect him to be. Which again, very trans.
Wouldn't know Eddie?
He had to go home.
I love also that, you know, they're so accepting of Eddie. They're just wonderful, lovely, accepting parents. Him being gay is not an issue. It's not like we don't need to have a big coming out scene. It's just he's gay. That's it. And they're cool with it.
Oh man, I made that pot roast you like so much. I even made the potatoes in the air fryer.
A hint here about how his dad is very interested in fancy kitchen devices.
Want to watch a movie? Psychological horror?
Thanks, Mom. We are currently living a psychological horror. I love that literally every other episode we get a different version of the Witch's Road song, which no complaints here. I love this song. Every single time they have this song in the show, it is used so effectively. And here, of course, we have Lorna Woo's version. But yeah, obviously the aesthetic of Billy's room has changed completely to how it was when he... Those candles. That's a lot of candles. Like, that's a fire hazard, man. But obviously the aesthetic of the room has changed a lot from William to Billy, which does make sense just in terms of growing up from a 13-year-old to a 16-year-old. So it is good to see that at least, you know, he's able to express some of his own personality here in his room and isn't just holding on to the ghost of William. Wanda dead, Vision dismantled, Tommy Maximoff missing, and Billy Maximoff. Looking at the sigil, feeling like it's connected somehow. Ooh, that's interesting. What does this say? Permanent sigils, active for long periods of time. Sigils can be made into art pieces or hidden in other objects. can be recharged to strengthen and revitalize the active energy. Interesting. And then destructible sigils activated by being destroyed. Oh, creates a burst of energy that gives the sigil power. Write, carve, or singe sigil into paper, wood, food, or object, and something destroy. Okay, so it looks like he's looking into different kinds of sigils. Witches and aging. Apparently witches are able to choose how they age and present themselves to humans. Some witches choose to stop again at a certain point, staying roughly 30 years old visually for literally hundreds of years, and then dread it. Recently, I've been researching a ton on the SWT, Salem witch trials, and not many people know this, but there are reports of witches that actually survived burning and drowning. Okay, rumors of witches surviving the Salem witch trials. Did any witches survive the Salem witch trials? Are they still alive? Where are they? Witches can live for hundreds of years, so the ones that survived the trials might still be out there, maybe? Witchcraft Reddit, you must know of some. Salemites, Evanora Harkness's coven were prominent in the area. I've heard blah, 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 blah. The young children from the coven escape. Look familiar? User has posted an image link. I love this picture of Agatha. It looks so real. Okay, we're doing a reverse image search on Lookie. Okay, so Zeppelin explosion kills 32. Former resident missing after Zeppelin crash. Airship crashes as it completes its journey. And then Agatha, a bit of Agatha's face there. Does this 1972 surveillance photo of Dolly Parton show the real Jolene? Of course Agatha is Jolene. Okay, I paid good money to get slapped by Dolly. She's one lucky lady. 122 dislikes. Of course she's Jolene. Check out my site, Brujapedia. Yeah, and there is some speculation that the reason why Agatha is associated with different disasters throughout time, like there's a mention of Titanic, is that it connects with her and Rio, who, we're pretty sure is death. So, Agatha kills people, Rio gets the bodies, that was their deal. But this would have been presumably after the business with Agatha's son, in which case Agatha and Rio would now hate each other. So I'm not sure if that's the case, but I guess we don't know when precisely Nicholas came to be, so. Fun facts. Murdered her entire coven, possesses succubus powers, nickname is Witch Killer, only known survivor of the Witches' Road. Down the road, down the witches. I said before, I love how they use this song every time they use it, and this is so good where, he just reads the words, only known survivor of the Witches' Road, and then the chorus cuts in. Down the witches, I fucking love this song. This is another instance of showing rather than telling in such an effective way. He's just seen that Agatha is the only survivor of the Witches' Road. Then we see him read, at the end, a witch may find what's missing. And then we go to the paper where it literally says, Tommy Maximoff missing, while Lorna is singing, I'll see you at the end of the road. It's so perfect. And just like that, we immediately understand his motivation, why he goes to Westview, why he does what he does. Is just so well done. Ballad of the Witches' Road, Miles to Go, Ember, Something Wicked, and Call the Corners? And it's 1978, so it is from the 70s. Which is interesting in terms of Alice's age. So it could be that Alice just has that witchy agelessness. I wonder how he got Agatha's specific address. We didn't see that happening. I'm sure he figured it out. He found out somehow, but...
Release spell.
Okay, so we have the release spell, a personal item from the bound. A successful release spell requires item of personal importance from the person under the binding spell. Clear your mind and center yourself. Remain calm and present. Hold the personal item and pass it back and forth between your two palms, focusing intently on it. I don't think he does pass it back and forth between his two palms. I think he's just holding it. Breathing slowly and with intent. Imagine your energy projected into the item with each breath. Let all sound fall away. Repeat the words, Dimete eam ex hox carmine. Interesting. He definitely says more than just this one line that we see here, but this is a very cool little book.
Requires an important personal item.
Miss you already. Are you ready for tonight? Will you come get me? Be there soon. Tonight was crazy. So insane. Thanks for protecting me. And then, yeah, you're my black heart. Yeah, I definitely think that's what the black heart was referring to on Lilia's coven list. Oh, okay, so he just pulled the neck of his sweater up. I gotta say, like, I love Billy's whole look. Like, the eyeliner, the piercings, the outfit, the nails, just impeccable.
The suspect's been seen in the last 24 hours.
So in episode 1, this is where Rio comes over with pizza. And yeah, there's been some thought about, was she actually there or not? And I tend to believe that she was, or at least was projecting herself in there somehow, because the things that she says, there are things that are clearly Rio trying to reach Agatha through the spell. So it seems like those are probably actually coming from her, but who knows, really. It is really lucky that, like, he goes through all this stuff and manages to find the one item that is actually really personal and important to her.
Okay, it's really fine.
It is so wonderful seeing this scene from Billy's perspective, seeing what actually happened, comparing it to in episode 1, where it was really just so cop procedural of just like, you know, the criminal is so slick and just, you know, running and jumping and flying around, and Agatha is like sprinting after him as the cop, and just what really happened is hilarious.
Are you okay? Stop! I'm trying to help you. Police! Please don't call the police. I can't have a criminal record.
Please don't call the police. I can't have a criminal record.
Sorry.
I love that he apologizes for knocking the garbage cans over.
Stop! I'll stop if you stop.
I'll stop if you stop. To stop for a cramp. And he looks back at her, and then that's when he runs into...
Hooligan?
Oh, Sharon, we miss you. Boner family reunion, pitch a tent. I mean, I guess if your last name is Boner, you just gotta lean into it. I wonder if the Boner family reunion shirt will be available as merch. I'm sure if it's not available officially, someone will create it, because...
I panicked, so I ran.
The head of the garden hose as her gun.
What compelled you to break into the home of a decorated detective?
Detective? Oh, that's not what I was expecting, but actually I can totally see that for you. Could I just trouble you for a glass of water? Or... Yeah.
I love that he's like, could I have a glass of water? And she kicks him.
I keep poking the bear.
I do not want to poke the bear.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
You do not want to poke
You're right.
that
I do not want to poke the bear.
I genuinely wonder how many takes of this they had to do before Joe could keep even a somewhat straight face, because like there's no way I could hold it together with Catherine Hahn doing this right in my face. And you can see him smiling a little, like trying to hold in his laughter, which I think does work for Billy in this scene as well, but clearly Joe as well. And I love that despite how over the top it already seemed in episode 1, it was even more over the top in reality, what Agatha was doing and saying here.
New question. Where were you last night between the hours of 1 and 3 a.m.?
Yeah, and it's interesting too that the reason she's asking him this is because somehow she heard about a car accident in Eastview where there was blood found in the back seat. Now, in her version of things, it happened recently, not 3 years ago, and in the middle of the night between the hours of 1 and 3 a.m. But it does definitely match the details of the car accident with William and his family, where, you know, blood in the back seat happened in Eastview. So it's interesting that they put that in there.
It's off. There you go. That'll work. That won't work. Okay. You know what? You do you.
I love Billy's whole attitude during this whole thing. How he's like, he's very unfazed by like meeting Ralph Boner in a deserted parking garage while Ralph freaks out and yells. And then this scene with Agatha here.
Asleep in bed. Total loser.
The expression on his face when she says total loser, he's like, I mean, he's 16. What do you want him to be doing between the hours of 1 and 3 a.m.?
Let's find out.
Let's find out. Catherine must have had such fun with this scene.
Tell me about this.
Those are daisies.
I wonder if that's Sharon's yard.
Tell me what happened to her!
What are you talking about? These are just flowers.
Yeah, it's interesting that that's what gets through to her. I do think that because Wanda is dead, or at least, you know, no longer in the world specifically, that's why little bits of reality are able to slip through the spell even before Billy tries to, you know, do the release spell.
See? lots of flowers. And that's a painting. Nice painting.
The condescending tone here. That's a painting. That is a creepy ass painting though. Ralph Boner, who did your interior decorating?
Exole hunc feminam de fixam.
Yeah, like the Exole Feminon de Fixum. That's not written in the book. So I don't know where he's getting that from. From the script, apparently.
That's really tight. Shut your mouth.
You can see Ralph's Blu-ray collection in the back.
I do not want to go back in the closet.
I'm glad they included the I don't want to go back in the closet joke.
Who are you?
My name is William Kaplan.
Say again.
I'm Billy Maximoff.
I love that moment. And this is the first time that he's said that out loud, even to himself, which is very, very cool. But it's also interesting since he knew he was under a sigil, but he didn't know what the sigil did. So as far as he knows, because he seems surprised later, he tells Agatha his whole backstory after this about like, oh, I was born in Eastview, but she can't hear it. And he doesn't seem to know that she can't hear it. Does he think at this point that she heard him? Does he think that she knows that he is Billy Maximoff and just doesn't have any follow-up questions? Like, I do wonder what is going through his head. We're back on the Witch's Road. Catherine Hahn, like, I cannot imagine getting covered in this much mud or whatever they used to make this mud. It just looks horrifying and so uncomfortable. It is really interesting to hear that this image evokes being tarred and feathered, which is another thing that happened to witches back in the day. Yeah, so we don't see Lilia and Jen climb out, and Billy and Agatha clearly think that they're dead, but we know that they're alive, or at least we know that we'll see them in an upcoming episode. Yeah, and so now that it's no longer needed, he's able to destroy the sigil. That thing was made of wood. Like, how do you break that in your hands? I'm gonna assume it was magically weakened.
That was quite a debut.
When did you figure it out?
I had a feeling when we first met. Even with the sigil in the way, you and your mother have the same tell.
I do wonder what tell she's talking about here. I'm sure there are lots of theories out there about it.
I wasn't sure, until...
Yeah, he does definitely look ashamed about what he did, which is good. Because, like, despite the fact that he says, I'm not that nice, like, I do think he's essentially a good person. Just has been thrown into this very, very difficult situation.
It's nice to see you again, Billy.
I do think that, Agatha is sincere here about it being nice to see him again. She did spend a lot of time with the twins in WandaVision.
Billy, William.
Oh, and she's tearing up a little bit here. I wonder if part of the reason why she's tearing up is that him finally being able to say his name is proof that he's genuinely not her son.
Every witch with a beating heart can hear you now. Lilia and Jen.
It's a little bit questionable that Billy is upset that Agatha killed Alice, which I do genuinely believe that it was out of her control and just like instinct taking over, and that she was not able to stop herself from sucking the power out of Alice. But like, he's angry and upset about one of the witches killing another of the witches, so he kills more witches. Like, it doesn't really make sense, but I know it was an emotional thing of just that anger.
Where did you come by this fresh body you're wearing?
Should have watched the episode, Agatha. We just found out.
Don't you dare feel guilty about your talent. You survived. So you broke the rules. Big deal. That's what kept you alive. That's what makes you special. That's what makes you a witch.
I love the double meaning going on in this whole speech of Agatha's here, where like everything she says to him about not feeling guilty, about surviving despite breaking the rules, which in this case is the rule that you're not allowed to inhabit a dead body. Which, I mean, technically, like, I don't know. But yeah, all of this can be applied to her as well and the things that she has done. So it's clear that she sees a lot of herself in Billy and that they do genuinely have a connection even now when she knows that he is Wanda's son and not hers.
I can finish the road on my own.
With all that power you can't control without throwing a temper tantrum.
I'll figure it out!
What does Billy Maximoff want at the end of the road?
This is such a brilliant, like, Wicked Witch moment for Agatha of being like, you know, with the hand and the voice. It's all just very classic Wicked Witch.
Find Mama? She chose a town full of strangers over her own flesh and wires.
Not flesh and wires.
There's two of you! You're after Toby!
Tommy.
That's what I said.
So apparently this is a running joke in the comics as well, that Agatha calls him Toby rather than Tommy. I like the fact that, like, Agatha cares so little about non-magical people that she just cannot keep their names. She just cannot remember their names.
He's out there somewhere. I can sense him, I just can't find him.
Yeah, so him saying, I can sense him, but I can't find him is really interesting. There's definitely a possibility that Tommy's soul also found a body to go into, but I tend to be of the opinion that his spirit is floating around somewhere, or may have even been collected by Rio, by death, and is being held somewhere wherever spirits go after death. Yeah, so I don't know where he is, but I don't necessarily think he's in a body. I do think it was Billy's magic ability that enabled him to go into William's body.
If you really want to finish this together, just know that I do not trust you.
I do think that he did like and trust Agatha up until what happened with Alice. Like, I don't think that that was an act he was putting on. I think he had like come to like her as a person. And it was clear also in the previous episode that did hurt her, the fact that he suddenly was treating her like the villain that everyone else has always treated her like. So she immediately put up the guise of the villain as a defense mechanism, which is what she does all the time as her defense. The evil mustache.
Let's go find the next trial. Last one there is a nice person.
I'm not that nice.
I think he is that nice, actually. I mean, you know, there is the whole, like, throwing 3 witches into the mud with the intent of killing them thing, but aside from that, in general, I think he's a good person. And that's the end. And it's also so cool to realize that the things we've been seeing in the ending credits are from Billy's room. Like, these are Billy's books and the evidence that Billy's been compiling, and also, like, you know, his posters and stuff like that. But yeah, okay, so that took a long time because I had a lot to say. But in conclusion, I love this show. I'm so interested. The same thing happened when I watched WandaVision. There was just so much to theorize and think about and try to figure out what was actually going on. And this is the same. And just the fact that it's queer and witchy, and just we've got Joe Locke. Like, I love it. I love it so much. So I hope you enjoyed my reaction / commentary, and feel free to leave your thoughts below. So huge thanks as always to our patrons, who are amazing, awesome, wonderful, fantabulous, spectacular. And a special shout out to our Nick Nelson members, Kelly Walker, Paul Z, Kent Smither, Kim Engel, Lauren Javier, Mark Walker, Sarah Parker Schemmelt, and Courtney McAlexander. That's going to do it for this video. I promise Heartstopper videos are coming. I just have to be in the right mindset, but I'm going to try to force myself to be in the right mindset very soon, because I'm sure that people who are not interested in Agatha all along have not gotten to this point in the video and are very annoyed with me. But I have not been able to think about anything but this episode for like 3 straight days now, so I needed to talk about it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night or whatever time of day it may happen to be. I'll see you next time, okay? Bye.